Good day, welcome to Music Motors and welcome to something a bit different. The 2020 Porsche Taycan, however you want to say it. But unlike any base spec 4S, this is something a little bit more different because this is a Turbo S. And what does a Turbo S mean? It means it can get to 62 miles an hour in 2.8 seconds. It can get to 124 miles an hour in 9.8 seconds, 625 horsepower. At launch, 760 horsepower, 1,050 Newton meters of torque. Now this specific car, well, that's quite expensive, £150,000 on the road. However, a 4S will cost you from as little, I say as little, as £80,000. And the biggest thing is that, realistically, even this Turbo S, being the performance model, will still see anywhere between 250 and 300 miles of range out of its 93.4 kilowatt hour battery. Now, this specific car goes up against a P100D Tesla Model S for the reason of it's bloody quick. It's also all-wheel drive. It's also got a sound emulator to make you feel and know that you're in something a bit different. That is an option though. Base spec, this Turbo S should be around about £137,000, but with the options it's 151k. Big money. But in this episode of Music Motors, I'm going to very quickly talk to you about Porsche's first ever fully electric car. Now from the outside, it's very Porsche in its aesthetic. Whilst the front end doesn't have the typical headlight clusters that you were expecting to probably see on the front end of this, the design is still there to imply that old school Porsche design. They may not be bug-eyed, but that front end is still unquestionably Porsche, with loads and loads of aero, lots of bulges, intakes. It's a beautiful looking front end. When you come to that side profile, 21-inch satin finished alloys are the first thing that caught my eye, shortly followed by huge brake discs, yellow brake calipers. And we all know what yellow brake calipers mean when it comes to Porsche. That means, well, really good stopping power. More to that in a minute. That side profile is full of lines, full of information. It is absolutely stunning to look at. When you end up at the back of the car, that's where this Porsche design aesthetic really summarises itself to me. Over the years, it's changed more and more, but they've kind of gone for this single line light cluster idea, and I really like it. The back end of this can only really be kind of compared to a Panamera because of its kind of wider design at the back. Not to say that 111 doesn't have it, it's just the Panamera has quite a big butt, and so does this. Quite a good big butt though, I like it. Lower diffuser gives you quite a lot of extra aero and really adds to that design. Pop-up spoiler when you're on heavy braking or when you're in Sport Plus and it thinks you're going pretty fast, just to give you that extra push on the rear wheels, because trust me, you need it. Now, this one's finished in jet black metallic and it looks amazing when it's clean. It's the problem with dark coloured cars, and especially in the winter, they pick up the grime and they show it, but when this is clean, this car just looks simply incredible, like mouth-watering incredible. The outside general aesthetic does look incredible 99.9% of the time. I've really struggled to find anything I don't like. The door handles, for instance, they do pop out, but unlike the Tesla design where they seem to break quite often, and DS have brought this in on their DS3, these feel really robust, really strong, and it's popping out but not being OTT. It means that when they go back inside, you have the nice sleek line down the side of the car, and when they're sticking out, well, they're not too obnoxious either. Outside, this car is very pretty, it is very refined, and it's very Porsche. When you get inside, it kind of takes you a second to realise what you've just stepped into, because it's full of screens, and I do really mean it's full of screens. They are everywhere, but beautifully, they're incredibly well integrated, like really, really well integrated, to the extent that it takes you a minute to really spot that there are 3 humongous screens going on here. The other thing is that I got in and originally thought, oh, there's a lot of plastic. That's a bit cheap of Porsche, especially on a 150 grand car. Till I went, oh wait, that's not plastic, that's leather, and that's Alcantara. Oh, wait a minute, there's a lot of leather everywhere. There is more leather than I can count in here. And as internal build quality goes, this is absolutely second to none. It has a fantastic build quality, like seriously impressive. Now, the instrument cluster in front of the driver is pretty adaptable, can give you as many bits of information as you want, can also give you your night vision should you so want to use it. The infotainment is very easy to use, and then there's like an extra window down here, which, to be fair, is where your hand will sit most of the time if you're on the motorway and not keeping it 9 and 3 or 10 and 2 as you should do. But if you do, the whole infotainment system can be controlled from here, and I dare say it's a bit easier than leaning forward to get to here. Sound system wise, Bose system, over 700 watts of real power, and it does sound very good. Obviously Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. The seats are incredibly comfortable in the front, 18-way adjustment, memory, heated, everything that you would probably expect. But equally, whilst they're really comfortable, they don't allow you any slip. I'm not falling out of them in corners, but I'm not feeling like they're so harsh, like bucket seats, that I can't sit in them for a long amount of time. You could quite easily sit in this car for 10 hours a day and come out the other side probably better than when you went in. Now, headroom, reasonably good, especially for my size. I'm 5'10"-ish. I've got loads of room. Even if I had my hair spiked up, I'd still have quite a bit of room. Passenger room's pretty good. Rear legroom, reasonable. Now, this is a 4-seater. It does have ISOFIX though, and the rear legroom is pretty good. And you can, obviously, if you want infotainment bits and pieces back there, well, you can option that in too. Luggage capacity wise, well, you can have over 400 litres between the frunk and the trunk. Whilst the front really doesn't offer you that much, it offers enough to put little bits of shopping bags here and there. The back end, the boot space is actually very good. Whilst there is wheeling rest, because obviously you've got adaptive suspension and all sorts of stuff going on, and batteries, generally though, you won't actually find that it's too negatively impacted. The boot space is very impressive. Now, on longer journeys, this is just unquestionably quiet, refined, a tranquil place to be. If you put it into your normal driving mode, you won't even think you're in something which is as sporty as this is, because it can be so refined and complacent in how it drives. But the second you put your foot down, immediate response, and it changes from this comfortable luxury barge to this nimble, incredible car. But that's just from a driver's point of view. Really incredibly comfortable. And yeah, it's a lovely place to be. The build quality is second to none. Porsche know how to build cars. They have done for years, and this is no exception. And especially considering this is their first electric car, I'm glad they brought so much technology over and implemented stuff that we've not even seen yet in other cars, thanks to 919 and various other projects they've had going on. Now, performance, and doesn't it have some 625 horsepower standard, 1050 Newton meters. But if you put it in launch mode, it suddenly has 760 horsepower, and a little bit weirdly, technically has 2 gears. To ensure that you had the best ratio to get to 62 as fast as you could, there's actually basically 2 gears going on. At around 55 miles an hour, it swaps into the second gear set. So you have almost a low range box to ensure that you can get some real performance going on, and it is truly incredible. The amount of performance this puts down literally reminds me of those ridiculous electric cars we had as kids that just respond far too quick, and we instantly crash them into a wall because they're so quick to respond and they go so stupidly fast. You know the ones I'm talking about. That's what this feels like at times, because it's so, I mean, literally under a second and I've basically just lost my driving license. It takes no time, it's just stupidly fast. But then the bit that gets really impressive is, like, right now I'm going to go past some horses, and I want to make sure I don't scare them. I don't want to accelerate too quickly, be nice and quiet so I don't scare them. I put it into this range enhancing mode. What do they call it here? Range mode. Limits you to 70 miles an hour, means that you get the best range you possibly can, all that sort of stuff. And you quietly just sneak past them like you were never there. This car is a spaceship. Aside from that ridiculous acceleration and how quick it is to respond to absolutely everything that you do, it then doesn't feel like an electric car in the slightest. Porsche have made this feel like a sports car, like an engaging, nimble, completely in contrast to what you expect an electric car to be. Because really, Porsche wanted to make sure this felt like a sports car through and through. So even the regen braking is meant to make you feel like you're driving a conventional car. It's got sound emulator inside to make you feel like you've got some of that noise coming on. And it really is such an incredibly engaging drive. It's mad to think this is electric. Now the brake feel is unquestionable. It's punchy, it throws in as you need to, but also little to no brake fade. Like nothing I'm going to feel, not on the normal road. The only time you probably feel any brake fade from these is on the track, or if you've been really naughty on a B road in the middle of the night. You don't feel the weight of this car. Electric cars are inherent in the way that you generally feel their weight a lot, because they've got a lot of batteries going on. This one, 93.4 kilowatt batteries. It's not far off a Tesla, which has 100 kilowatts worth of batteries, kilowatt hours worth of batteries, and that one you do start feeling the weight as you push it through corners. This, however, is really balanced. The weight is just incredible, and it just doesn't feel its size in the slightest. And then range-wise, 250 to 300 miles. A full charge at home is never going to cost you more than about £7 or £8 for a full charge. I mean a proper full charge. When you consider that in old Porsche terms, that's pretty mad, isn't it? Because if you wanted to do 200 to 300 miles in a traditional Porsche, you're going to be doing, well, you're going to be putting in a bit more fuel than that. And to have the ability to turn around such incredible technical fuel economy, if you can resist the urge to put your foot down, but to then be able to just put your foot down and absolutely go and smoke everything on the road, to give you a really compelling and controlled and incredible driving experience at the same time. I mean, Porsche know their stuff. This is an incredible car. Really, I didn't know what to expect, but I should have done. £150,000 car, especially by Porsche, should be pretty special and pretty incredible. And that's exactly what this has ended up being. This has ended up being something which kind of puts a lot of competitors to shame and should really get Tesla on.
How can I help you?
And she's getting involved now. And really should put Tesla to shame. I mean, seriously, it should do. Oh, may I just add, the lock is absolutely, truly ridiculous. Thanks to passive rear steering, it means roundabouts are, well, pretty easy, as is town driving.